Welcome to another episode of Get Wisdom. I'm Brian Kelly, along with Get Wisdom founder and director, Carl Mollison. This week, we're going to explore it looks like it appears to be a fairly unique, not exceptionally unique, but somewhat unique problem for humans, discouragement and depression, something everybody's fought with in their life at one time or another. And we're digging a little bit deeper on this topic, Carl.
Well, I think everyone has their moments struggling with these issues. It's a spectrum. It can be mild, it can be very transient, or it can be prolonged and very, very intense and a severe impairment of life functioning. And so it's all kind of related to fundamental issues and fundamental problems. And I guess the biggest one can point to is the broad human dilemma, that we're here to struggle, and that's because we're up against darkness and dishevelment of every aspect of the human experience. Everything's under siege, everything's being contaminated, corrupted, and so that's pretty depressing, I guess.
Yeah, no wonder we're depressed and discouraged.
Well, I guess there's good reasons for it. That's kind of what I'm laboring to get to. But the light can be of help. The divine realm can be of help to give us a better understanding and point us towards the way to solve these issues and get things going in a better way. So that's really where we want to go here.
Absolutely. And I have a history of my depression myself. From my 20s and the early 30s, I was severely, basically clinically depressed almost all the time. So I know what this is like, and it's a hard thing to deal with for sure. You asked Creator, every human being knows what it's like to feel depressed and discouraged at times. But the reasons for being depressed and discouraged can be as unique as the humans themselves. Are depression and discouragement unique to souls only in the physical and lower astral planes, or can this be an issue for those in the light as well?
All right, and this is what I channeled from Creator. These are Creator's words. Depression is virtually unknown among light beings. This is one of the reasons it is difficult for them to fully understand and appreciate what human physicals are experiencing. In a roundabout way, this also explains one of the main rationales for the divine human experiment in the first place, to give such advanced light beings a unique opportunity to experience something they would not otherwise. That can be most helpful for growth and learning, especially to help those dealing with very tough circumstances who may not be blessed by being in divine alignment and able to self-correct or obtain assistance immediately, as is the case for the light being who is never far from Creator and can go to Creator instantly at any time desired. That is quite a different experience than possible with human beings. So this is the first challenge that humans face, and there's no parallel within the light itself.
Well, it's an interesting answer, and it's one that I wondered about, and it's good to know. It's a good answer to know, actually.
Well, we are eventually all going back.
Yep.
Back home to the upper realms, and we're going to be back in that blissful state of existence and enjoying every second of it. And it is an awesome reality that we're part of the divine and part of something so much vaster than we ever experience as a physical human. We're just a tiny part of ourselves in actuality. So there's lots of reasons to rejoice. But in the meantime, we're here right now. We have to deal with what's going on, and we have to work to make it better if we're going to really learn the lessons ultimately and survive the experience without it getting short-circuited. And that we do talk about again and again.
Indeed. Yeah, so since we're exploring the reasons for all this, we'll ask Creator, is there always a good reason, even though perhaps hidden, to feel depressed and despondent? Or is this usually a chemical imbalance as science presumes?
All right, and this is what Creator says about this issue. First of all, disappointment and depression are not simply biochemical states of being that give rise to the emotional burden they represent, and thus only need some tweaking chemically to restore proper balance within the brain to alleviate the symptoms. This is a faulty scientific premise that has not worked out very well in practice. While it is true that chemicals can perturb the brain, and under certain circumstances that will constitute a sufficient level of relief to warrant spending lots of money and suffering in many cases, a sufficient level of relief to warrant spending lots of money and suffering, in many cases, side effects as at least something one can do to help the dilemma of depression, we do not regard this as a viable approach in the first place and would not support the endeavor. There are better and more elegant ways to heal such a dilemma, and that is what is far preferable, to do the deep healing to solve the problem once and for all, rather than something that is at best a temporary symptomatic treatment. The true sources of discouragement and depression are real life circumstances, whether in the current life or parallel lives, but being witnessed by the deep subconscious. Severe setbacks, failures, sources of torment emotionally or physically, as with torture or early death from illness or at the hands of an attacker, are a few examples of what the deep subconscious mind wrestles with on a frequent basis, particularly once traumas take place. This triggers the deep subconscious to go looking for parallels, to look for information that can be of use to help the individual cope with the growing dilemma. And what often happens is this serves to greatly reinforce the dark nature of what is unfolding and will greatly amplify the negative emotional response that is generated. So there is always a good reason for depression in the sense there is a cause that relates directly to the personal experience of the sufferer. It is because that dire circumstance was never resolved, never healed adequately, that the tension and imbalance persists and is quite keenly felt by the deep subconscious as a recurring threat. So the warning it sends through triggering dark emotion that can even reach a level of overwhelm is an appropriate response to being in harm's way. What is wrong is the fact the deep subconscious is disconnected from the other levels of the mind. So the problem is unappreciated as to its origin, and the inner resources so meager because there has been too little prior knowledge about adequate ways of healing negative emotional dilemmas and states of depression. So people become victims, and this may well become a repeating pattern affecting life after life, if not just repeating bouts of depression within the current life. It is because the problem has never really gone away. It has never been resolved. So it is like being in a cliffhanger with perhaps even your very survival at stake that comes around again and again and again. And this will create successive waves of inner discord and negative emotional responses and may well become a chronic state of being because of the inability to cope. The deep subconscious does not have the wherewithal to repair itself. It needs outside help. This can be done when the deep subconscious can be reached directly, as with subconscious channeling, but the conscious self can do relatively little because it is blind to the causes of the dilemma and so cannot understand the nature of the problem nor apply a meaningful healing strategy. What is offered by psychology, for the most part, are forms of coaching and encouragement, the promotion of greater understanding and insight that are well-intentioned, but in actuality do little to solve the inner dilemma because they are coping strategies that to some extent may help explain the problem but will not solve it. So a state of chronic disappointment and depression are a deeply felt healing need and represent a cry for help.
Yes, I do know about this very personally. It's interesting because I never sought out actual professional assistance for my depression. I just felt at a very, very deep level that these were issues I needed to work out personally. And so I fought a long and hard battle to overcome it. My observation of depression is that in most cases, there's a deep insecurity and lack of confidence that also goes along with the dilemma. That may not be true in all circumstances, but it's certainly common for sure. There's things you have to work out and learn, and a lot of that stuff is bubbling up from past lives and parallel lives, but it really represents something that you still have to deal with.
Well, there's a lot of common sense in what you say. When you reach a point where you feel like you're failing, that takes the wind out of your sails, and that can set you going on a downward spiral. And life is full of opposition to what we might want to see happen. We get it from parents, we get it from siblings, even more so in many cases, and we get it from the school system. If not judgmental teachers, we get the bullies on the playground and the kids in school and the class laughing if you make a mistake or if you don't know an answer. And that primes you as you move along to not believe in yourself and not have the inner wherewithal to bounce back and to find a way to re-enter the fray and double your efforts and hold strong to an inner belief in yourself that eventually you'll find a way to prevail. That's hard to do against a headwind, and we get a lot of those headwinds.
Absolutely. You ask Creator, how much are depression and discouragement a function of belief? We know for humans that beliefs residing in the deep subconscious are resistant to belief changes that are not a result of direct experience. Is this why depression is such a difficult condition to treat, and why it seems to respond so poorly to entreaties from concerned others?
And Creator tells us the following. This is all quite true. You cannot talk someone out of depression. You can talk someone into a better frame of mind if what they are experiencing is simply feeling negative at the moment. But someone who is seriously depressed cannot be shifted through reasoning with them or showing them something lighthearted and encouraging. They simply cannot relate, or may even feel repulsed, because to the depressed person, a scene of something joyous and happy is like oil and water, and they will recoil strongly because of it. In effect, is a kind of threat to them in reminding them of their deeply dark world they inhabit. So it is more like a slap in the face than true assistance. This is why a skilled therapist, through gaining trust and building rapport with someone suffering in this way, can do some useful coaching up to a point, but it is the inner beliefs that will rule and will win out every time over best intentions. And this includes attempts at self-help as well. People cannot simply, through force of will, overcome a severe depression. It is based on an ongoing struggle within that is conflicting with important and deeply held beliefs needed for personal survival. And to the deep subconscious, it all makes perfect sense because it is their truth in actuality, while the conscious self is not aware it is under siege. If you could talk to the deep subconscious, it would tell you and show you quite clearly it is being bombarded with attacks of all kinds, from interlopers or reviewing Akashic record scenes of prior disasters and savagery it has experienced firsthand and may well be terrified it is coming again. With no one to help with such beliefs, there is no way to shift this dilemma readily without belief changes. That can only be done through a concerted and lengthy process of divine healing. It can also be done by the self given the right tools to work with. One example, and the best available, being the facilitation of trauma resolution for the deep subconscious. Without that, a person is always held hostage by their inner beliefs, come what may. And these beliefs may conflict quite strongly with what the conscious self believes, and is a further complication that hinders personal progress and helps to explain why depression can be so intractable, despite a concerted therapeutic intervention, even involving adjuncts like hypnotherapy. What must take place is an energetic healing for the energetic signatures stored within the Akashic records applying to the many traumatic prior episodes the person has experienced in parallel lifetimes, which can be quite numerous because human history is rife with struggle and trauma. Most and suffering of all kinds, which have accumulated in the records for each individual. Most are now hundreds of lifetimes invested in attempting the difficult or impossible to solve the problem of evil, often working independently through their own inner drive and yearning to make the world better in some way, with little understanding and little aggregate effort that might be organized for efficiency to take on the problem. This is fighting a war under the most difficult of circumstances. It is a war of ideas on one level, but an actual consequence to the beings involved that can be quite devastating, both physically and emotionally.
I think what's really revealing in this channeling is this idea that you can't easily change someone's belief. Well, I have from personal experience know that you can have, not only can you not talk somebody else out of their depression, you can't talk yourself out of your depression either.
Yes.
I learned that from experience. Where I did get some help was in figuring out that in order to change my own beliefs, I had to challenge those beliefs and basically do something that was the opposite of my belief to give myself perhaps some new experience that could then change the belief. But it would be the new experience that would change the belief and not any kind of rationale or logical argumentation I would do with myself. But for people to face their fears and go do something that is counter to what they feel inside, that's a tough one to do.
Well, and this is hitting a wall, is it not? This is very, very real to all of us, and we don't really understand the mechanisms, most of us, but it's something that makes sense if you understand the mechanism involved here. Beliefs are your operating code work. This is the coding like a computer program. It will only
operating
do
system.
Yeah, the operating system, the programmed instructions, that's all a machine can do. Well, we're kind of similar. We have some flexibility, but when it comes down to it, we have to live within our borders, and they're armed with beliefs to hold the line and constrict us and constrain us from departing from what we have come to expect the world to be like and ourselves. And when we believe the world is against us, we're never going to succeed because we can't go against those beliefs. This is quite a dilemma, and it speaks to the need for divine help because there's got to be a way out of this trap. And right now, that is the best way there is.
Well, yes, getting divine assistance to heal is certainly a superior tactic than trying to run up against the current. I think one thing that does separate us from the animal kingdom, though, Carl, is that we can go against what we believe if we make a logical choice to do so, but there's very little incentive to do that. Whereas with animals, they can't go against instinct. They don't have that free will.
Yes, this is true. Well, I help people all the time with this very issue because I can channel their deep subconscious and I can do trauma resolution work directly with that part of the mind where the problems are. And it can work quite well. But I'm only one person. I've got potentially over 7 billion clients, and that isn't workable.
Right.
So that's why you have to fall back on the divine for the vast majority of folks out there.
Yeah.
But that can be an answer as well.
Yeah. And it took me 20 years of hard work to overcome. It took me 20 years of hard work to overcome my depression. We don't have 20 years, Carl, to take care of the depression for the entire world. So.
That's how it's shaping up. Yes.
Okay. Well, we're up against a break. Check us out at getwisdom.com. We'll be right back right after this. Welcome back to the second segment of Get Wisdom. We are talking about creators' perspective on discouragement and depression, which is obviously a big topic I think everybody has experience with, and there's a lot to investigate here, Carl.
Well, it goes beyond the human level as well. A lot of our problems come from the interlopers, the dark beings in our midst. They are manipulating the world. I know this sounds like we're already nuts here at Get Wisdom. But
we're not depressed about that.
Well, but that may be a useful point in our favor, we haven't succumbed yet to our own our own dogma. We're not foaming at the mouth, and we're not fatalistic. We are realistic, I think, and we understand the difficulty. But we need to share this perception because you need to turn to the divine, and we're here to motivate you. And we'll hit you over the head with everything we know if we get an opportunity, because that might be what's needed to shake people out of their complacency. We're deadly serious about this. We need you. We need you. And the Lord Almighty needs you to weigh in, cast your vote.
Yep, because that's the rules of engagement. That's the way it's been set up. You ask Creator, the possible failure of the divine human experiment evokes discouragement and deep frustration even among avid followers and supporters of Get Wisdom. Yet Creator seems to take all this in stride, and some might find that disturbing in its own right. Doesn't Creator care about the outcome? If anyone should be disappointed, it should be Creator, who has witnessed this experiment fail again and again and again. How does Creator feel about all this?
Okay, it's an interesting thing to know about. What does God do all day? What does God thinking and feeling as watching this unfold with all the strife and fear and suffering? This is Creator's answer. We feel very deeply about everything, but not in the way humans feel. Where you might feel pain and despair, we feel concern and a desire to send love in answer to the suffering. What happens all too often is we must be prevented from doing so because we must honor our own rules of engagement to not rush in and make everything all better, but allow humans to be on their own and summon their own inner resources, skills, energies, and creative abilities to solve their problems and gain ground through the achievement of better circumstances and reaching goals they set for themselves. All that can be short-circuited if we were to rush in and remove an obstacle in a person's way. Yet we do care deeply about each and every individual and what they are experiencing and often enduring. It is not pretty, but we can retain a longer view and see an inevitable end result that is so far greater in benefiting the person suffering in the moment that it is much easier for us to be patient as things proceed ever so slowly and moving towards a final solution. We do have our limits, so that final solution might be seeing an end to the divine human experiment altogether. If that were to happen, humans would no longer exist in the physical realm, but their souls would live on in the light, and you would live to have other opportunities, perhaps in a restarting of the physical universe, to begin the experiment under better conditions, designed to be more successful than was achieved in the current universe you inhabit. We also know much more clearly than you do how each and every unpleasant experience you go through serves to help you with growth and learning. And the strengthening of character and richness this brings to your soul through life experience will be invaluable for all of your future. So it is much less a negative than you perceive on the receiving end, because of your senses so keenly attuned to react strongly to negative stimuli of all kinds, which serves you in having survival value so you can avoid threats to your existence, for example. It is enduring that discomfort or even pain that teaches great life lessons and allows you to be of even greater service to love in very deeply understanding the sufferings of others and what it means to be incomplete and out of alignment in various ways. You are gaining the deep knowledge of how to regain your balance, to restore a state of equilibrium, to let the flow of love surge within you and bring you into ever greater alignment with Creator in your thinking. The achievement of enlightenment is the receipt of enough healing that you become aligned with Creator, because there is nothing amiss, nothing out of alignment, nothing lacking, nothing faulty, nothing unattended to or misplaced or utilized imperfectly to cause a problem and a state of being where there are no wounds left needing healing. So you are fully intact, functional, and in possession of the fullest reach available to you by virtue of the state of completion represented by being in alignment fully with the divine in every respect. This attainment is hard won. To minimize your suffering is to minimize your chance at full attainment of enlightenment. What that will mean is becoming free of error, becoming invulnerable, so you will not be harmed by anything that might oppose you. You will simply be able to withstand or avoid any onslaught because you will have an answer and a solution at hand to implement immediately to maintain a state of balance at all times. So there will be no room for discord or negative emotions of any kind. If anything, you will have greater joy in experiencing the power you command for the higher good of yourself and others, in being able to stand strong and deal with adversity of any kind. That is the loftiest of goals, but is the path you are on, working towards and volunteering again and again to participate in its undertaking.
So, a short answer to the big question of, what does Creator feel about all this? At the very end here, we're given an answer about enlightenment. Now, clearly, Creator is enlightened, and Creator is telling us that we are also pursuing enlightenment. But it's probably safe to say that we can't truly understand what enlightenment is until it's achieved. And so maybe we still can't quite understand how Creator can be unflappable in the face of repeated failures. But that's what we're being called to be as well, to become strong and to have answers for every dilemma. And that's the path we're on.
Well, and that's a big revelation for a lot of the spiritual community, especially the New Agers, that enlightenment is not some mysterious secret lore or knowledge. It's actually healing.
Yes.
Healing your way back to being on a divine path and being in alignment with divine thought and putting it into practice. And that makes a lot of sense. Brian, you skipped over a question. I wanted to get back to it if we could.
I'm sorry.
The one before this, if you can find that one.
Oh, okay. Yes, it was short. It was a short one. That's why. Okay.
Yeah.
U.S. Creator that I skipped, bad me. Interlopers, meaning spirit attachments and the extraterrestrial alliance, can insert and even change beliefs in humans rather easily in comparison to changing oneself. How much does that double whammy complicate human betterment?
Okay, and this is important to understand because it's a major reason for why people are discouraged and depressed all the time. We're being bombarded through manipulations of all kinds. So this is what Creator says about this double whammy. This is often a key determinant causing major problems for individuals of all kinds in all walks of life. This is because of the widespread indoctrination, subliminal programming of the deep subconscious, and manipulation of beliefs done directly within the deep mind and forever altering that individual to be at odds with their own life experience, perhaps, but deeply constrained at the same time because the beliefs of the deep subconscious will matter greatly to those beliefs, greatly to it, and there will be a rebellion if the conscious self endeavors to work in opposition to those beliefs in some way. This will result in tremendous emotional upheaval, chronic anxiety, and eventual exhaustion and feelings of defeat and depletion to the extent it becomes only a state of depression with little energy for anything constructive. This is the virtue of having work done directly on the deep subconscious via channeling in conjunction with trauma resolution and belief work done directly through Creator to offer replacement beliefs of a positive nature for the negative beliefs revealed by the deep subconscious. This is true healing in action that will forever change the individual for the better, but is a rare occurrence because this is an approach still unknown to science and only carried out by your channel here.
With 7 billion clients.
But it's back to me again. It's all on my shoulders, folks. I I never dreamed of having this opportunity.
Yes, yes.
I don't like being alone. I don't like being the one who is in charge and who's responsible for the answers and the solutions. We need more joining the cause and taking up the banner and acting as parallel agents for change and bringing about this enlightenment, both
Yes.
through spreading knowledge and information, but also healing.
Yeah, what I want to point out is that, Carl, you are unique, but you're really a pioneer. And what does a pioneer get? The pioneer gets all the arrows, right? um, Really, our future is to, obtain your ability to speak with Creator and then go beyond that. You're only a few steps ahead of us. You're not all the way there. So we're in this together. Carl's kind of in the vanguard here, but we're all heading in the same direction. And someday we're going to all be able to speak with Creator and get answers like this. So that's where we got to keep our eyes on the prize.
Yeah, well, this is the sad reality, and this is this disconnection we heard about early in the session today. This is why your deep subconscious exists in isolation, thinking and feeling deep down below, and in torment a lot of the time because it's seeing all these other lives unfold. You can't do that because you don't have the intuitive reach that the deep subconscious does.
Right.
But you're supposed to be fully integrated and functioning in harmony, aware of all levels of your being and interacting with them all and interacting with the Almighty whenever you want to. So the irony is God hears you all the time and watches everything you do, but you don't hear answers. You don't hear suggestions. You don't hear guidance and inspiration. It comes in subliminally.
Yes.
And things come from the higher self to coach you. And if you get it, you'll feel like it's just your own impulse and idea. That's kind of the way it works. But it's precious little often for people, especially when they're down and out with exhaustion and depression.
Yes, but that only aggravates the issue of being disconnected, unfortunately. U.S. Creator, depression is widely viewed as a cry for help. But what if there was no one else to help? Can one eventually learn through repeated experience that patience is something that needs to be infinite, continually cultivated, and even treasured?
All right, and Creator tells us the following. This is more a philosophical endpoint than a strategy for achieving a successful outcome when one is faced with overwhelming burdens. Each person must work with what they have unless they can reach out to the divine for assistance. If you do so, you will be granted greater energy as well as support and guidance to help you make the most of what you can do currently and to help you cultivate greater resources within in appreciating who you are and helping you make your way more successfully than ever before. When you have the divine to consult, you will never be alone. We are always available to you and will always answer a request. It is you who will govern the extent to which we can assist you in response. We must bow to your wishes. If you believe in your helplessness, we must allow you to be helpless. If for you have chosen that outcome and we cannot go against your wishes. This becomes a chicken and egg problem, so to speak. How are you to gain the strength to overcome your problems? Where is that strength to come from if you lack the wherewithal? What is needed is, in fact, someone to help. You cannot always count on others being sympathetic and available. Moreover, people cannot help someone in a material way to overcome their inner struggles. Just as the conscious self is unaware of being under siege within the deep subconscious, so will another person. That lack of understanding provides no framework for a logical intervention of any kind. So other than some hand-holding and encouragement, there is little one can do for another in a meaningful way when the problem is literally out of sight and out of mind, but nonetheless real and resulting in intense suffering of some kind. This is why your best answer is reaching to the divine in times of difficulty. We will always know the reasons why you suffer and will have strategies available to help us to improve things. It will not always be possible to make rapid progress, but a healing effort can be launched, and that is the next best thing. For without it, you will surely flounder and may well succumb to the ravages of depression if endured for too long a time. The answer is to have a partnership with Creator and to cultivate the belief quotient needed to gain the maximum benefits.
One observation I have here, which I think is very, very important, is that people come into life with different karmic burdens and different amounts of karmic burdens. We are not truly a tabula rasa, which is the blank slate that people think we are. And somebody with intuitive abilities like yourself, Carl, we've learned that as healing progresses, you become more intuitive. Your intuitive capacities begin to become restored. So the difference isn't like you're special in any way, other than that maybe you have less healing requirements than others. And that's not a criticism of anybody. That's just a statement of fact. We all have our karmic baggage. Some have bigger bags than others. Some have more bags than others. But they all need the same solution, which is deep healing. And we have the solution for that.
Well, this is found in the divine and through the divine. And you can argue that even what science does is largely a divine inspiration, so that people can be smart enough and resourceful and creative and figure things out in a kind of mechanistic level that can actually be helpful. And it's a partnership on that level, sometimes blindly by the humans who just are still open enough and forward-thinking enough and positive enough to leave open the door. And then the divine can come in with inspiration and give them a leg up. It happens all the time. Yes. So there are many ways we influence and help one another indirectly, and the divine adds to that. But if you invite them specifically, more can happen. That's the message. It's not that you're helpless without the divine, but you can do more with the divine, and it's your birthright to call on it.
We're on a break, so more will happen right after this. Welcome back to the final segment of this week's Get Wisdom. We are sharing Creator's perspective on discouragement and disappointment, both an exploration of what some of the hidden causes are, as well as what real working solutions encompass.
Well, it might be time for some divine encouragement. So,
yeah,
let's see what we can do. Having waded out into the mire and wallowed with our fellow sufferers, and giving them extra reasons to believe in their discouragement and depression, we better come up with an antidote. And we've been trying to do that along the way. But let's add a little more if we can.
Sounds good. You asked Creator, what can Creator share about what humans can do for dealing with repeated disappointments, seemingly without end?
All right, and these are Creator's words. The first thing we would share with you is that you are not alone. We are with you always, and we love you unreservedly. We love you with an intensity that is incomprehensible to you, because there is nothing in your experience even faintly resembling the magnitude of our love and respect for you in all that you do, all that you take on and are a part of in this grand experiment underway. Although you may be filled with doubts, we know who you are, and we know, therefore, you are up to the challenge, and you can prevail in any contest with the darkness because you share our power. The only limitation is what you yourself create through unawareness and being out of alignment by experiencing fear and disbelief. So what we are encouraging you to think about is the tremendous resources that are available to you for the asking and are your birthright as a divine extension of us. You are literally a part of the Almighty. This makes you not only special, but blessed with many potential capabilities you can cultivate, nurture, and grow into from a state of disconnection and unawareness, and experience a growth and learning that will bring unbounded delight and joy as you spread your wings and begin to soar. This will require determination, inner resolve, and developing both a total belief in the divine and a belief in your own worthiness. If you are not there yet, do not despair. Many have undergone a downward spiral until they hit rock bottom, so to speak, but then surrendered and asked for help, and were eventually raised up through healing to surmount their perceived limitations and challenges to succeed in life in ways they would never have believed. You have greatness within you, and you are learning the importance of greatness through experiencing suffering in a state of limitation. Finding ways to put back the love being denied you means to develop in the art of living to new heights. This will serve you for all of time to have undergone these travails. And those who you rescue in bringing your love into the world to share with others will not only be eternally grateful, but will be for you eternally a source of pride and satisfaction in achieving the greatest of accomplishments. Not only to succeed in the loftiest of goals, but to succeed when coming from behind with such a severe handicap. You are perceiving the nature of the difficulty in what you have taken on. This blinds you to the joy of victory that awaits you in your future. You will need inner resolve to keep going, but you are not alone. We will help you all along the way. But you must want this and make the first step to reach out to us and request assistance. We will answer the call and will work to raise you up. That will enable you to be all the more effective. And together we will be successful in bringing into existence a new way of life for humanity and the many other beings you will save along the way.
You know, there was I think a question asked in this collection that didn't make it into this transcript, but I think the question was asked if people outside the Milky Way galaxy also experience depression. The answer we got was the answer is no. That it's very much like being in the light, where there's immediate feedback and communion with Creator, essentially. And so the reason I bring that up is that we're here on a very special mission, and this is a difficult, hard mission, but we're after something very profound. And the depression that all of us are experiencing is the price of admission to this difficult environment. But we're chasing wisdom, and we're growing, and we're learning, and it's a gem that's worth reaching for sure.
Well, and digging yourself out of a hole is not so very hard if you can do it through prayer.
Yes.
It doesn't cost you anything. It's simple. It takes little time. It just takes reaching from the heart for something that you want to improve and going to the divine, the highest source of divinity that you believe in. We recommend God. We call it Source Creator to help appeal to others who don't like the G word. The Muslims like Allah and so on. So they're different faiths and traditions, and we want to go to the generic creator of all that is. That's why we use the word creator. But here's a prayer you can use to raise your belief quotient in the divine and oneself. Very simple. Source Creator, raise me up each and every day to feel divine love, to open to divine love, and to express divine love through me in all I do. That's a very beautiful thing, but its purpose is to help you get stronger and be in more alignment so you can get the divine working on your behalf without you being the weak link.
Yes.
So this is strengthening your link in that chain of connection.
But it's very important that I think people realize why prayer is necessary. You know, I just shared that in the rest of the universe, prayer essentially isn't necessary because the connection is always there. And the same when you're back in heaven, back in the light. Prayer is not really necessary in that environment because there's immediate interaction with Creator. But down here in the Milky Way galaxy, and especially on Earth as human beings, we're cut off from that immediacy of communication. And so we need prayer to make up for that lack of communication.
Yeah, that's the gulf. You know, that's why you need faith. That's why you need belief, because it's not visible. God does not show itself. That's part of the agreement and the arrangement.
Yes.
So we have to figure it out. We have to decide on what we need to do, and we have to be in the lead. It sounds weird and ridiculous even to many. Why doesn't God lead us? Come on. God knows all, et cetera, et cetera. Well, that's not the point. The point is, what do we know? What can we do? Even under extreme circumstances of deprivation, disconnection, and dishevelment, can we still stand strong enough and believe enough to carry the day? That is a test of us, and it's also a learning and a strengthening we're going through that will serve us for all of eternity. We're getting stronger, we're learning more, and we're understanding the problem of evil in ways others who don't risk coming here will never appreciate.
And that, I think that's critically important. We are essentially undergoing a kind of God training, a kind of God apprenticeship, and if we want to raise ourselves up to that rather exalted level, we have to demonstrate our worthiness of that. We have to go through this trial, and we have to develop the wisdom needed to partner with Creator without Creator doing all the work.
Yes.
God's looking for partners. He's not looking for subordinates.
Well, and God has given us tools to use. One of them is prayer, and the other is the Lightworker healing protocol to do more deep and significant healing, invoking the divine to do that for us.
Absolutely. Speaking of the LHP, you asked Creator, can Creator share how the Lightworker healing protocol and dedicated prayer work can ease the minds of those burdened by discouragement and depression, regardless of the cause?
All right, and Creator tells us these are the best and most effective tools available to human beings for their personal betterment and for the improvement of humanity as a whole. These are the tools for requesting and helping to direct the formation not only of a divine partnership, but its implementation, to have a deliberate divine intervention to target the current difficulties and dilemmas, whatever they may be. The divine knows more than you, has greater capability, and shares the same vested interest in seeing that things improve. What could be better than having a divine healer at the ready, sympathetic to your plight, and sharing the same goals for you to have a happy life of continued advancement, with a goal to achieving an enlightenment, allowing you to live in bliss, in a joyful existence of infinite duration? It may seem as though there is a long ways between here and there from your current vantage point of limited awareness and many obstacles in your path. But keep in mind, the divine can do anything. There are no limits on us. They are all coming from the human side. What you believe is possible and what you personally are ready for in terms of your state of being, level of ignorance, accumulation of negative inner beliefs deep within the subconscious that are not only in your way, but obstacles to divine healing. The obstacle may be absolute for solving your problems personally, but the divine can eventually overcome even your negative beliefs, given enough time to undo the many influences resulting in their creation and persistence. We are here to tell you that all is possible. You need not accept defeat. You have but to ask to receive assistance that can grow over time if you desire to grow yourself in strengthening what is needed at your end of things. As we have discussed, we are in this with you, and we feel this very keenly, but we must obey our own rules demanding that you be in the lead. So everything depends on you taking action to make your desires known, to reach out with direct requests to us for what you want to have happen. The more you learn about the true causes of your difficulty and ways they can be healed, the more effective you will be in recruiting divine help. That is the blessing provided by the Lightworker Healing Protocol in defining all the specifics that need to be addressed. All then that is lacking is for this to come from you in making a request and having within you the intention for divine action to address all the problems. This comprehensiveness and the many types of leverage built into the protocol workings to greatly amplify the reach of an individual human requester can be enough to win the day. But without you, the odds are lessened that humanity can continue in its present form. This is a call to action for everyone hearing these words. Anyone can do this. If you can generate a heartfelt request for assistance, we are showing you the way here today. The choice is up to you because it will determine what happens in your future or does not happen. You will leave the outcome in the hands of the interlopers.
If you don't do something. And that's what we're here for. We're here to show the way as to what you actually can do to make a difference in the world. And one of the big ways, of course, is learning the Lightworker Healing Protocol. You can download our free ebook describing the Lightworker Healing Protocol training at getwisdom.com/LHP. Carl, you also shared a prayer from our collection of prayers that were provided by Creator. You can get our prayer book that contains that prayer that Carl shared, as well as many others. And you can get that at getwisdom.com/prayer. Also, check out Get Wisdom for our healing services, because sometimes it can be very difficult for us to be our own healer. So it makes sense to reach out to those that can intervene on our behalf and bring their own intention to bear for your problem without necessarily the burdens that you have. You can check out our healing services at getwisdom.com. We have a healing tab on our menu. Visit it and check out the different services available. Carl, we're just about out of time for this week. Thanks again for a great show.
All right. Well, thank you, Brian, and blessings to all of you out there. We wish you well, and we wish your health and happiness.
And we'll see you next week.